It began as a routine hearing, a quiet military courtroom, the air heavy with formality and fluorescent light. The kind of place where truth is supposed to wear a uniform. But that morning, something broke the rhythm. The doors opened. A hush fell over the crowd, because the man walking in was supposed to be dead. His name was Sergeant Daniel Price. 15 years ago, he vanished during a covert mission overseas, presumed killed, buried in paperwork, and honored on a memorial wall. And yet, there he was, standing alive, in dress uniform, face pale but defiant. The soldiers in the gallery froze. Reporters stopped writing, and one man, sitting at the defense table, quietly lowered his eyes. Daniel Price wasn't just another soldier. He was the backbone of Echo Unit 9, a tactical team assigned to protect experimental tech shipments during a volatile overseas deployment in 2009. His commanding officer, Colonel Richard Mason, was a decorated veteran, the kind of man who inspired both admiration and fear. Under Mason's leadership, the unit was efficient, disciplined, and loyal. Until one night, everything collapsed. According to official reports, Echo 9 was ambushed during transport. Price was declared missing in action, presumed captured or killed. But the story had holes, too many. The radio logs didn't match the terrain data. The last GPS ping from Price's equipment vanished minutes before the attack. And somehow, Mason was the only one who made it out completely unharmed. For 15 years, the case stayed closed, another tragedy filed under combat loss, until a sealed envelope arrived at the Office of Military Justice. Inside were encrypted coordinates, signed only with the initials DP. When investigators followed the trail, it led to a remote checkpoint in Eastern Europe and to a hospital registry. The name entered there months earlier, Daniel Price. He had survived, captured by mercenaries, traded between factions, and ultimately forgotten by the government he served. But he hadn't been idle. He'd been collecting evidence, waiting for the day he could return. And now, that day had come. In the courtroom, Price's voice was steady. He recounted the night of the ambush, how orders had changed at the last minute, how the coordinates they were given led them into a dead zone, cut off from communication, and how the gunfire came not from the enemy, but from behind them. The prosecution leaned forward. Who gave those coordinates? Price looked straight ahead. Colonel Mason. The room erupted in whispers. He said Mason had been working with a private contractor, selling experimental weapons tech on the black market. When the deal went bad, Mason used his own men as cover, sending them into an ambush to erase the evidence. When asked for proof, Price reached into a folder and placed a small flash drive on the table. "These are the communications logs," he said, "intercepted by the man who held me." On screen, the messages appeared, encrypted emails, payment records, and transmission data that matched Mason's old call sign. Every digital fingerprint pointed to one truth. The ambush had been staged. Mason sat motionless, jaw clenched, as his own messages were read aloud. Price continued, describing years in captivity, kept alive not out of mercy, but because his captors thought they could sell him for information. He survived on silence, waiting for one chance to expose the man who betrayed his unit. Then came the moment no one expected. The judge asked if anyone else could corroborate the story. The courtroom doors opened again. One by one, men in uniform entered, older now, faces hardened by time. The surviving members of Echo Unit 9. They had come on their own, uninvited, and they each carried something, fragments of old mission data, letters, reports they'd kept out of guilt. When the judge asked why they were there, one soldier stepped forward. He said, "We were ordered to keep quiet, but we were there that night." And he's telling the truth. The silence that followed was heavier than any gavel strike. As the evidence mounted, Mason's composure cracked. He stood up, denying everything, calling Price delusional, the data fabricated. But then Price revealed the final detail. A recorded radio transmission from the night of the ambush. A voice ordering the false coordinates. Mason's voice. The courtroom fell still. For a long moment, the colonel didn't move. Then, quietly, he sat back down. For the first time, Price allowed himself to breathe. 15 years ago, Daniel Price's name was etched into stone. A fallen soldier, forgotten by his command. But he came back, not for revenge, but for truth. To remind everyone that even when justice sleeps, it still dreams. Because the battlefield doesn't always end overseas. Sometimes it's right here, under oath, in front of the world, where the ghosts finally speak. This was Trace Crime Files. Subscribe for more stories where truth is stranger than fiction, and justice is never as simple as it seems.